I would like to thank you very much for your amazing work on the city strings and hammers. Um, so, would you like to talk about, first of all, would you like to talk about your experience with your experience working with strings and hammers, which has quite unusual instrumentation?
Well, I'm very lucky to be working with strings and hammers, that's for sure. We have three virtuoso musicians. First of all, with yourself and Julia Keller, of course, in Houston, and Sini Virtanen from Finland. And so to get together and work over the year or so that we put this together was a great learning experience for me. I like the philosophy of mixing a percussion ensemble with other instruments. So this was a dream come true to be able to commission composers and to work with strings and hammers and create really literature that has not been created before. So that was absolutely the magic formula.
Thank you. Did you have any challenge working with these two string instruments? One is has high register, and the other one is the complete opposite side of it, violin and double bass.
Well, I think it was actually the composers knew the instrument so well. So we had really outstanding composers for each instrument. And because they knew, there was very little I had to do in terms of creating balances and finding lines and matching phrasings and all the things that we do to make a musical experience. So sometimes it's very easy when you're writing in a concerto type thing, especially with percussion, that the percussion can dominate and you can't hear the lines that the soloist are trying to hear. And in this case, again, the composers were so knowledgeable and so intimate with their instruments and percussion that they were able to overcome this without the conductor having to make any changes at all, really. So sometimes the lines are not soloistic, and yet you can hear them within the context of the whole work. Other times they're very soloistic, and the percussion is basically out of the way. So surprisingly few balance problems with this idiom.
What's the fun part having this soloist or this smaller ensemble working with the percussion ensemble?
Would you say that again? I lost a headphone for a minute.
What was the fun part of working with soloists? So you work with a lot of soloists and percussion ensemble.
Well, it's always fun when you have a new instrument that comes into the ensemble. I think it makes the ensemble focus better because now instead of just listening to themselves, they have a soloist and another instrument to listen to and to react with. And as the conductor, of course, that's just pure joy again and pure fun to be able to, oh, I have a new instrument in front of me now, and I get to balance it all out and to create music.
Great. Well, you have here 5 different composers.
Yes.
And how was your experience working with these composers?
Well, once again, the composers were wonderful to work with, just a joy. They're all wonderful people, and that helps them to make music that is very, very special. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. We have Anthony Green, who's an African-American from America, but lives in the Netherlands. We have Eduardo Roldan from Spain. We have Emily Cole, who teaches at the University of Georgia, but is a Singaporean. We have Jarkko Hartaikainen, and I apologize, Jarkko, I'm not sure I pronounced your name right, from Finland, and is a delightful composer, as all are. And we have Alessandro Annunziata, who is from Italy and wrote the gorgeous piano concerto for you.
You have I believe these are all new composers for you. You haven't worked with them. This it's probably first time working
Well,
with.
with the exception of Emily Coe, and that's Koh instead of Ko. I worked with her earlier in one of the new music festivals and did a wonderful percussion quartet by her, which is certainly, I was very enthusiastic to know she was a bass player and could write a concerto, which she calls for super bass with the violin. So that was very special. Emily's very gifted.
So, how were your experience with working with these new composers that you have not worked with? It's, I'm sure it's fun, but also at the same time, it could be a challenge.
Well, again, I love it when a composer comes in, and uh, it's a lot of fun because you've developed a concept over 2 or 3 months of rehearsing these pieces, and you can call the composer, you can Skype the composer, which we did sometimes. But once that composer is there, you can begin to discuss the instruments, what mallet that you want, why I selected something, why the composer might have wanted a different sound, and I can say, oh, I didn't think of that. And it just makes me learn and grow every time this happens. He's not on this particular CD, but I had a former student, his name was Daniel Adams, that has written a number of pieces for me. And Daniel would always write a mallet choice in, and I would never agree with him. And then 6 months later, I would say, he'd say, he's right. He gets a different sound than what my ear was tuned to. So again, I grew from that kind of thing. And another couple funny stories with Paul Reller. The first piece of Paul's that I played was called Snowflake. And when I first got the piece, it was loud drums for about 20 minutes. And I was still kind of an orchestral player and had that. So it was kind of foreign to my ears. But Paul took it so seriously that a work that I did not enjoy when I first started conducting it, when I finished and did the performance, I walked up to Paul and said, we have to record this work. It's wonderful. So you're always growing, and sometimes the pieces that I like the least when I start are the pieces that I like the best when I finished.
That's great. What should a audience expect from the city, or what can they enjoy from the city?
Well, if they like new and unusual sounds, this is the CD that I would certainly recommend. And if they like more than just percussion ensemble, again, the chamber ensemble of strings and hammers enhances everything that we do and creates just a new kind of awareness of where music can go and a new exploration. So I would think it would be very exciting for people who are looking for new explorations into music.
Is there anything you want to add, or you want to talk about the city, of course?
Well, of course. Oh, yesterday, you did a wonderful interview with the composer, Anthony Green. And the piece is certainly about social justice, which is very timely. And it's about social justice in terms of gender, in terms of race, in terms of economic benefits. And I think the piece really creates an awareness, as we remember from the overwhelming audience response. And it's different in an audio because the piece is so visual in that sense, but you'll hear different things. And Anthony used a number of different sounds, such as zippers in suitcases and so on, that all had a great deal of awareness about the piece. And I think it's just a gem. And going on to Pulsar is the one piece that was written for the entire trio and percussion. And this was perhaps technically the most difficult piece. So when we started this, the tempos were faster than I felt we could have played it. So I was on the phone and doing emails with the composer and sending back and forth. And so that was a fun piece to put together, and using the whole trio. And not all of percussion music has a beat, but this people has kind of a sense of time with the word pulsar, even though the beat is shifting all over the time. So that's the Roldan piece, Pulsar. Memento Mori, again, is about human tragedy, and really explores the bass in a different way. And also Emily's use of time in percussion is very unique. And she used a number of odd groupings of third notes and sixth notes and so on to create kind of an ambiguous sense of timing and flow. So I think the piece is important for that reason. Jarkko's piece, the Ice Concerto, is really beautiful, and I think examines the world from the north area, and also has a sense of pulse about it without being groovy, where I think that too often grooves get in the way of percussion ensemble music and the piece becomes dully repetitive. So Jarkko has avoided this with his piece. And Apollon, of course, is just a gem of a piece in 3 movements that makes use of percussion with piano, and has just a gorgeous sense of development among the 3 movements.
Thank you. So this will come out July 10th.
Yes.
By Ravello Records.
Yes, and it'll be available on all the major internet sites or directly from Ravello Recordings. And you'll see some advertisements in Gramophone and all over. So we have high hopes for the CD, and we'll certainly hope that all of you will get a chance to peruse it.
Thank you.
Thank you.